Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Ability on Wednesday. That's the Arkansas Razorbacks. And it's funny because I go back to this time last year. First of all, thank you, producer Matt. Quick reminder, follow our Torres on the Hogs page for all your late-breaking Arkansas news. Torres on the Hogs for all your late-breaking Arkansas news. So, want to give I want to, one, shout out the page. But two, what I also do want to say is this, is that, I think about this time last year. John Calipari gets the job at Arkansas. And what was interesting about it was just a quiet few months, going into the season. There wasn't a ton on the social media pages. I think John Calipari didn't do a media availability after he took the job until like right before the season. Players were not available, whatever. But I bring it up because on Wednesday, he had the media out. They were allowed to record practice. They were allowed to talk to players. And again, I think one, it is great for the fans, but two, I think it speaks to something else. I think John Calipari is very confident about this team. And so what I want to do is, listen, obviously I was at USC, didn't have a chance to get on the private jet and go down to Fayetteville, but I'll give credit to my buddy Curtis Wilkerson. Curtis Wilkerson inside Arkansas was there. And I told Curtis, I texted him on Tuesday night. I said, whatever you put out, I'm talking about on my show. So I want to talk about some of the stuff that Curtis put out and some of the media put out from Arkansas practice, because to me, I think it speaks to a team and a program that is very confident going into the summer and then the offseason and then the season ahead. But then two, as importantly, I think it's just not just confidence. I think the confidence is backed up by a lot of talent, okay? So a couple things stood out to me. First of all, you can pop up the first tweet, producer Matt, from Curtis Wilkerson. He was speaking with Nick Pringle, one of the new transfers to Arkansas. And Nick Pringle was kind of asked about the team and what he experienced so far, especially in the front court, going up against two returnees, Trevin Brazil, and then also on top of that, Malik Ewan. Now, Malik Ewan is not a returnee, so I take that back. So one returnee, one newcomer, but the other big guys on the roster. Here's what he said. He said, it's been a battle going against two 6'10 guys with long arms. Iron sharpens iron, okay? So you can sit there and say, what does that mean? It's just a quote, whatever, who cares? What that says to me, I think this is a much deeper and much more physical and probably, frankly, much more talented team than a year ago. I was thinking about this, prepping for the show. When I saw that quote, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of, remember that second round NCAA tournament game a year ago? Arkansas plays St. John's. And if you watch that game, there was just a different level of physicality, toughness, athleticism to that game than any other game to that point in the tournament. Now, maybe by the time we got to Florida, Auburn in the Final Four was a different deal. But I remember watching that game, and then like later in the day, it would be like Drake versus Missouri. And you're like, this isn't even the same sport, okay? And so I bring it up because I think Cal this summer, and I think that quote speaks to it, has built one of his deepest teams in a long time, one of his most athletic teams in a long time, and one of his most talented teams. As Nick Pringle said, that front court, that 4-5 spot is basically 6'10", 6'10", 6'10", and a bunch of dudes that are big, long, and athletic. Trevin Brazil, I thought he played some of the best basketball of his career in the final few weeks of last season after Adu Thero got hurt. Malik Ewan, if you're not familiar with this guy, he's 6'11", 7 feet, came from Florida State, was their second leading scorer, leading rebounder. I think he's going to be a load to handle in the SEC. And then Nick Pringle said himself, I get to go against those guys every day. It's only making me better. Nick Pringle's a really good college player in his own right. He's probably going to be the first big guy off the bench. And if he is the first big guy off the bench, that is a team that is going to be physical and tough. And that doesn't even include everybody else on the court. Carter Knox, I expect to make a big jump. Billy Richmond, I expect to make a big jump. And that doesn't even include the backcourt of DJ Wagner, of Darius Acuff, of Malik Thomas, three dudes that can get to the bucket, get their shots, get whatever they want anytime they want. So again, I think if you're an Arkansas fan, I just think when you see them walk out of the tunnel for the first time, that size and athleticism is going to stand out. There was something else that Curtis tweeted out that really stood out to me when I saw him tweet it out. He tweeted, quote, he asked both Trevin Brazil and DJ Wagner, somebody in the media did. I don't know if he specifically asked, but he, the difference between this time last year and this time this year, okay? And he said they both pointed out the biggest difference between last year and this year is health. Makes a big difference simply having healthy bodies on the floor, building chemistry in the summer. And so when I think about this time last year, and when I think about really the start of the season, obviously things didn't start off well. You lose to Baylor, you lose to Illinois in the out of conference. You start 0-5 in the SEC, I think 1-6 overall. And I'll admit, everybody was negative. Everybody was down on Coach Cal. Everybody was down on Arkansas, and I include myself. I'm not going to run from it. I'm not going to pretend that I didn't say the things that I did. But I think in hindsight, we really undervalue how many different dudes dealt with different injuries throughout the season. And you sit there and say, in hindsight, yeah, they were going to start off slow because they didn't have a healthy roster all summer. They didn't scrimmage most of the summer. And it really took until about, frankly, probably mid to late December before they got some semblance of health. And even then, that was when Boogie Flan went down. And so you think about last year, it's yes, they started slow. Yes, it was frustrating to watch if you're an Arkansas fan. It was frustrating to watch for somebody like me who covers this sport on a day-to-day basis. But at the same time, you're like, well, wait a second now. Nelly Davis was basically out all of fall with a wrist injury. Jonas Adu was out most of the fall with an injury himself. Then the season starts. Trevin Brazil hurts his ankle. Big Z got hurt earlier in the year. And it was by the time they kind of figured things out, it was mid to late January. It was because they had to keep changing the lineup because of the fact that, again, basically they didn't have the same 8-9 players at any point all season long. And so the fact that they're healthy, the fact that they got enough dudes to go 5-on-5, I think you are going to see a team that is going to be exponentially better to start the season and exponentially more ready to go because they're just going to have more time together. And of course, that's knock on wood, assuming nothing happens between now and the end of summer. But I just bring it up because I think we all last year, and I include myself, underestimated and undervalued just how much the issue of injuries, especially early in the year, really impacted that team. Finally, was one other tweet that I saw that did catch my attention. And that was, Calipari mentioning that they're going to have more media availabilities. And Curtis, who covers the team, he's at every media press conference, etc. He said, Coach Cal seems very relaxed, comfortable, and confident with what he has. You can tell he likes this group. Now, I'll add even this, and this just came out right before we went live, so I didn't have a chance to send this to producer Matt, but I thought it was very interesting that Coach Cal actually referenced the schedule as well on top of everything else. So in the media availability, he said, let's see here. In addition to the marquee games already added, he is looking to fill bye games with programs that made the NCAA tournament. And Coach Cal said to the media today, he said, quote, you schedule to your team. That to me tells me everything you need to know. Okay. And I've said this throughout the summer, but I've covered Coach Cal for a long time. And you can tell by his actions if he likes his team or not. Okay. I understand this time last year, not doing a ton of media stuff, not having a ton of players available. It's because everybody was hurt, new program, new team. There was only one returning player. Media didn't, whatever. I'm not, hope didn't sound like I was blaming the media because I'm not. I'm just saying I understand why he made the decisions that he did. But this year, if you got a team you believe in, let the world know. Let those players be available. And like I said to lead the segment, in this NIL portal world, make the players available. It's the right thing to do for a fan base, and it's not just the Arkansas fan base, it's every fan base in college sports that you're asking more out of, more donations, more seat price, whatever it is. Give the fans something and make your players available because, what is the harm in it, okay? And so you can tell Coach Cal is confident just by the fact that he's letting media in, he's letting people behind the curtain. You know what else makes me believe that he is very confident? That last part about the schedule. Now that is something that we have been talking about on this show probably about the last 3 to 4 weeks, okay? Again, I've covered Coach Cal. And the one thing I'll say, I know based on the schedule, if he really believes in his team or not. Because you look at this schedule, it's bananas. and he ain't hiding from everybody. Okay. Listen, the Louisville game, that is something that was scheduled by the league offices. I don't know how much Arkansas really had to do with it, but I'll say this. If ESPN, if the SEC did not believe that Arkansas was going to be good, they would not be sending Louisville to Bud Walton. But beyond that, look at the rest of the schedule. Arkansas is playing Houston, 3-4 days before Christmas in Brooklyn? Arkansas could have gotten another opponent. If Coach Cal just wanted a game in New York before the holidays, Arkansas could have gotten another opponent. They didn't have to get the potential preseason number one team, but I think Cal wants to test his team before SEC play. By the way, they're playing Texas Tech in Dallas. Again, there are ways to challenge your team, and there are certainly opponents that you could find to play you on a neutral court in Dallas that aren't a potential preseason top 10 team coming off an Elite Eight with the preseason Big 12 Player of the Year, I'm almost certain, in JT Topic. You can find somebody else to play in Dallas. It's clear Coach Cal wanted that competition. I'll say this. I'm not even sure. There was talk of a game at Michigan State. I don't know if that's official yet, but again, it's just the confidence that he has in this team. So I'll say this, man, it's one practice. I'm going to go back and watch film and highlights. It obviously happened just a few hours before we went on air here, but I've been saying since this roster came together, once Carter Knox came back, I think this is a team that is capable of a Final Four, that is capable of a deep tournament run, that is capable of an SEC regular season title. They have the most returning production in the SEC with 2 McDonald's All-Americans, a couple high-level transfers. I think this team is good, and I think based on the fact that Coach Cal let everybody behind the curtain on Wednesday afternoon, that he likes this team as well.